Hello. I've recorded a couple videos since the last one that I just haven't posted, that just, I don't know, didn't feel like a real desire to share them, I guess. And the truth is, and I want this to just be really real, and this isn't a problem. Nothing is wrong. There's nothing bad here. I am in a depression, or rather experiencing. I am experiencing a rather deep depression, what could be called that, and I'm not trying to change it. I'm not worried about it. I'm actually not afraid of it, which is new for me, and new in the last couple of days too. Get all kinds of crap in my eyes. It's just what is, and there's really nothing more to it. But it feels like maybe this is something that could be documented, because I don't think it's talked about very much. It is, it's discussed, but I think from what I've experienced, at least, the discussion of it is still colored with judgmental language. It's glossed over. It's, kind of sanitized. I've seen it discussed frankly a few places, but just with the things are itchy and just all uncomfortable now. With the rise in popularity of, spiritual discussion, and which I'm not saying is a bad thing at all. Not at all. But the way that it's been co-opted by ego, which of course that was going to happen. Again, that's not a problem either. It's not a problem, it's not a mistake. It's just interesting to see. Of course. That's nothing new either. The original takeover of true spirituality by egoic mechanisms happened thousands and thousands of years ago with the start of organized religion. All of that started with really genuine, earnest, and real experiences, and the sharing of those experiences by real beings who had real things that they wanted to express and to share and to teach to others. And of course it was misunderstood because we weren't ready. We weren't ready as a species. We weren't there yet. Oh, there's a little bunny. Hey, little bunny. So, consciousness wasn't hearing the teaching. The mind was hearing the teaching and thinking that the teaching was about the mind, because there was still this tremendous mind identification. And so to try to teach mind about consciousness, of course that's going to go screwy. Of course that's going to lead to all kinds of misunderstandings and misconceptions. Mind thinks that it is consciousness, and you try to teach it about something that it's not, but it thinks it is. If that consciousness isn't there, like, it's not conscious, it's not aware. Of course, it's growing. Life is there, and life is becoming conscious. But if it's not yet, if it's not aware to that degree of itself, of what it is, then the teaching is not going to make sense. And it's just going to be taken by mind and run with. And that's what's happened. And that's okay. That's not a problem. You know, we do a lot of growing in a lot of different directions. Life is rooting more deeply into itself all the time. It's done a lot of surface level spreading too. And that's what that is, you know, the mind thinks it's going deep, but there's nowhere to go. There's no depth to mind. So it tries to twist the dimensions, and it says, I'll spread out as far as possible. I will learn as much as possible. That's what mind can do, right? It can collect information about. It can't actually feel, it can't actually experience anything, it's not actually conscious. It's not actually even producing the thoughts that it believes itself to be producing, whatever. All it can do is sort of accumulate. That's what mind can do. It's sticky, it's resistant, and so it's kind of like a sticky web. It can accumulate, and that's how it creates this sense of more. It creates a sense of itself, it creates a sense of expansion, a sense of depth, by actually just sticking more and more stuff to itself. Doesn't actually know anything. Doesn't actually know anything. It can't. Knowing is not the realm of the mind. That would be direct experience. That would be what life does. That would be what you do. You, life, you are aware. You are being. You are being that is feeling experience. The nature of your being is feeling experience. And it's actual. It's direct. It's real. Mind is conceptual. Mind is idea. Nothing about mind is real. All mind can do is make up stories. So it tells all these stories about what is, and completely misses what is in the process. And there are layers to what is, also. There's the surface layer, that's everything out here. And at the surface, well, really at every level, it's quite simple, not just the surface. At the surface and at the deeper layers, everything just is. There's no meaning to any of it. That's just it. This is where mind loses its grip. And this is where a grieving process, I believe, has to take place. The term Dark Night of the Soul is thrown around like many spiritual terms. I'm not going to pretend that I have the definitive definition of what that is. I don't think such a thing exists. I think it's inherently subjective and unique to the individual experience of it. And I don't think there's a way to do it wrong, or that it happens wrong or right, or again, there's no meaning. None of that stuff exists. There's no right, wrong, good, bad. Everything just is. Everything just is. And so a part of learning to perceive reality as it actually is stripping away the narratives, realizing that everything just is. Everything that is at the surface level just is. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything about the deeper level. It doesn't mean anything about the surface level. It just is. Everything that is being experienced here, every condition, every circumstance, it just is what it is. It's not an indication of anything. And in fact, there's really nothing to do. And there's nothing to be done, and there's no one to do it. Everything is just happening. Happenings are happening. Life is flowing. That which you are is flowing through. It's conscious and growing more conscious. It's well and it's growing more well. All of that just is. It's not because of anything. It's certainly not because of anyone. There isn't anyone. There is just life, which is us. We are, in fact, pure life force. And all of this is just playing. And I do believe, I know it's very possible to enjoy all of the playing, to really recognize it fully for what it is, play. Nothing serious, nothing meaningful, just continuous, joyful play. But I also recognize that this character that has been constructed the imagined self is grieving. It is suffering. It's suffering greatly in the realization of all of this. Because it doesn't see how it has a place there. And it sees that this is the end of itself. Now, this character is imagined. It perceives that it's dying, but it was never alive. That's the thing. See, all of this stuff, all of this form stuff, it's actually not alive. I mean that in the truest, purest definition of the word dead. It is devoid of any life force of its own. It does not have life. Life is flowing through it. That's what we are. See, that's you. That's me. That's us. We are life. We are that which is without death. Life can't die. Life is life. The very definition of life is it's living. We are the living force, the living, animating force that feels, that experiences, that is us. We can never be separate from ourselves. We can never be other than what we are. What we are is complete, is total, is expanding always, is evolving always, is growing always more well. What we are is excited. I have no doubt about that. I know that. What we are is excited and excitedly experiencing this playful, continuous expansion of self, this endless journey of self, into self, which is, again, that word is it's tricky because it's life journeying into life. There's no self. There's no thing that life is journeying into that is other than it. There is no object. There is just life. Experiencing more of life. There's life and there is the screen of reality, which appears to be just that. It's reflective. It's intrinsically reflective. I don't have this figured out. I don't understand all of this yet. In fact, the mind could never understand it, really. But it appears more and more that there is life and there is reality, and reality is not exactly alive. It's just perfectly reflective. And so when life became aware of life, reality bloomed in reflection of that. I don't know. I'm still feeling that stuff out. But life is the only thing that is alive. And that, again, is what we are. We are life. We are not these forms. The forms themselves are actually dead. And they're not the kind of dead that we think of as, well, it was alive and then it died. No, they're without life of their own. They're animated by us flowing through them. They're animated by us flowing through them. And that is the presence that we sense when we perceive another living thing. Even inanimate objects appear to have a minute level of life force moving through them. And that is presence. And that's what we sense as presence. But the forms themselves are not alive. And that includes the mind. The mind, which itself is a surface level condition, circumstance. The mind is just a form. And this is where the mind suffers. And it is suffering. And it is begging me to do something about it. And I'm not. I'm not. I got a whiff of this last year. Around July. I'd started this process earlier than that, but I wasn't fully in it. Just, I wasn't ready. It wasn't time. I didn't understand. That's not the right word either. It just, I wasn't yet fully conscious of what devotion to being myself meant, to fully realizing and being what I truly am. Because that does mean letting the ego die. And it is an allowance. To try to kill ego, that doesn't work. That itself is an act of ego. It is ego that is resistant and resistant to its own self. What I am is allowance. And so I allow ego to be, but the thing is, ego is in a state of continuous destruction. Ego is actively dissolving all the time. It's just that we keep renewing it. We keep renewing it. And it knows that. It knows that it can continue indefinitely. It can stay alive. The appearance of life. It can maintain the appearance of life as long as you are flowing through it. Otherwise, like all forms, it is in a continuous state of entropy. It's forms that entropy. It's not life. Life is the opposite. Life only becomes more. Life only gets bigger. Life only gets better, actually. That is true. Life only gets better. It gets more well. It discovers more joy and more peace. It feels more love. It feels more excitement. That's life. That's you. That's me. That's the truth of our being. And I do know this. But currently, I am sharing this experience of this form with another form that is kind of trying to split my focus into it, and has successfully done so for a long time. It's a sort of sub-form within this one. It's really pretty interesting. No, I don't have all the details worked out. Sometimes I get it. Sometimes I get it. It's clear as day. And then I lose it because it's not a... The second I try to understand, I don't. I can only ever get it. It's a relaxing thing. Anyway. That sort of sub-form, that illusory consciousness, imagined consciousness, has perpetuated, has renewed itself, has renewed its form over and over and over for a long time by convincing me to flow through it, to reanimate it. And I am feeling now that that is the meaning of reincarnation. It's not to do with the physical body. Actually, it's to do with the mind. It's to do with the mental construct of self. The mental construct of being, of that which we actually are, which it then calls self. And so in order to actually be what I am, I have to let this self die. And yes, it does evoke emotion. Because yes, it feels sad. And I am aware at the deeper level that nothing is lost. That this self, which is dying, was never me. And so nothing of me is departing. Only everything that wasn't me. I know that. But I'm not trying to use that. I'm not trying to bring that knowledge and that experience into the mind. That cancels out the whole process. I'm not trying to change how the mind self, the ego, this self feels. I'm not trying to make it better. That just stops the process. The grief must be felt. And it is grief, and it moves through all the stages as we know them to be. There is denial, there is anger, there is bargaining, there's depression, and sometimes there is acceptance. But the grief remains. It's still there. As we know, too, it's not a linear process. It cycles through these things. Sometimes it jumps backwards, goes back into anger, and then into depression, and then briefly in denial again, and then it's back in bargaining, and all the while, I am just listening. I am just watching. And it does feel like watching something die. And that something is screaming for you to help it. That's what it feels like. And I feel the fear of this thing. I feel the pain of this thing. I feel the anger of this thing. I feel the hopelessness of it. As it is screaming to me, you're letting me die. You're killing me. This is willful negligence. And at times, oftentimes, it feels like a screaming child. And I'm describing this as honestly as I can because I don't want there to be any delusions about this process. I don't know how it happens for other people. I can't speak for them. Maybe for some it is painless, but I don't see how. Maybe that's how it becomes as we step into a new age where things are softer and gentler. Maybe this process becomes less painful. But right now it is. It is the feeling of a child dying in your arms. And it's scared. And it's asking you to do something. And you know that not only is there nothing you could do, that this can't be stopped. And there is the broader awareness, again, that nothing is dying, that this is in fact an illusion. This is in fact something that has no life of its own, that is putting on an act, putting on the appearance of suffering, because suffering is only an illusion. It is putting on the show, the performance of suffering to try to convince you, to act. And it's not doing it out of any consciousness. It's not even doing it consciously, because there's no consciousness there. It's not malicious, it's not manipulative, it has no awareness, so it's not aware of what it's doing. It is a program. It is an artificial intelligence that is designed to perpetuate itself any way that it can discover how, and this is how it knows how: through fear, through using fear to get your attention, to get you to act upon it, to get you to try to change something about it, about what it says its experience is. It says its experience is suffering, and it says that fully expecting that you will attempt to change that suffering, and that feeds it. That's it. That's all it needs. There is no actual suffering. There is no actual being there. There is no consciousness. Nothing is aware. And it uses the illusion of suffering, knowing that you are going to feel that. And it is banking on your unconsciousness. It's banking on your unconsciousness and not understanding the reality of what is. Because when you become conscious and you understand what's going on, and you see, not only is this an illusion, but this isn't how I act. As in, I do not seek to change the experience of another. I've learned to witness. I've learned that that's what I am and that's what I do. That's my role. That's how I honor everything and everyone in the individuated experiences of life. I recognize nothing is wrong. And I seek to change nothing. Whatever I witness is as the experience of another. I honor life, the life that I am, the life that you are. I honor life in the conscious witness of that experience, in trusting you to experience it, trusting, knowing your safety and your well-being so surely, knowing that nothing is wrong here, no matter what it looks like, knowing that you made a choice to have this experience, and that for me to intervene would be a violation of your free will. And that is not how I behave. That's disrespectful. To violate your free will, that's disrespectful. That is impeding you on your journey. That's preventing you from experiencing what you desire. That's preventing you from receiving your desire, which I can't actually do, right? I can only maybe become an obstacle to it. I can't keep it away from you. I can't keep your desire away from you. And I realized that if I want to build a reality where no one is trying to interfere with my free will, where no one is trying to intercept my desire, where no one is behaving against themselves and denying themselves and denying the fundamental laws of the universe and the creation of reality, then I must behave that way. The onus is on me. I must become that. If I am realizing that no one and nothing affects me, no one and nothing changes me, no one and nothing stands between myself and myself and my desire, my truth, then I am not seeking to insert myself. I am giving up affectation. I am giving up my attempting to affect anyone else, recognizing that I can't really. That is a powerless move that is diminishing to my being and all being, disrespectful to my being and all being. And so as a champion of being, a champion of life, in upholding the true virtues, upholding the actual laws of the universe, I witness. That is how I honor self, being. And so that is how I honor the mind. That is how I honor the mind-made self. It wishes to have the experience of death. It's really quite a phenomenal thing. Death can't exist. Not really. Because everything is life, and life cannot die. We became aware at some point that the dissolution of form offered an opportunity to experience something that was impossible. And we're all about experience. But in order to really have the full experience of death, of the ending of self, we had to imagine a self that could die. We know that we can't, so we had to come up with one. We had to create a character. A character that was capable of dying, and in order for that to be, it must not actually have life in the first place, because that's how it works, and we know that. That's just how it works. If something is gonna die, it can't actually start alive, so we just have to make it look like it's alive. We create a story. We give it the illusion of life. Of individual life. That's another part of this too, because we're aware as life, nothing is separate. So for something to die, it has to be not us. It has to be not what we are. What a crazy imagined scenario. We have to create the illusion of consciousness within a form. We are the consciousness. We're the true consciousness in the form, and what we are can't die. But in order to experience death close up and personal, actually, we had to create a copy, an artificial version of us that had no actual life of its own, but was imbued with just enough to think that it did. And now it's dying. It's doing what it was designed to do, what actually it wants to do. We want the death experience. I feel like it's a pretty special little sticker in our notebook. You know, it's one of those things that you're showing off, going, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I got that merit badge. Died. I died. Which means I had the death experience. You know, I took that ride. I went on that ride. I spelunked that cave. Because yes, you come out the other side. Yes, there's another side to it. You don't die. But in order to have the experience of death, you gotta do some crazy kind of magic, crazy kind of illusory work to get into that spot where that feels like what's happening. But I don't think it's the death of the physical form that is where the real juice comes from. I think it's the death of ego. The death of the physical form, that seems pretty easy without ego. It's ego calling this me and mine and my death. That makes it such a big deal. That imbues it with such resistance and suffering. And I would very much like to experience the death of myself before the dissolution of this form, so that I can actually be me, fully enjoying, embodying this form for whatever duration that is. But that's what this is. The end of suffering is going into it. It's on the other side of it. There's no like skirting around it. Not that I can see, really, truly, because I want to do this. I want to do this properly. Call me, maybe that's just ego itself. I've always been fucking thorough. And suffering is an illusion. Absolutely. The experience of the illusion is real. That's what's so cool about this. You can see a magic show and know that it's stage magic. You can know that all of this is a trick of light and special effects and sleight of hand, and what's being presented as happening isn't actually happening. But the experience is real. You're still experiencing it as if it is. That's what's amazing about all of this. It is just an experience. And I'm here for it. I'm here for the depths of it. And so right now, life, the experience of life, because life is what I am, the experience of life's circumstance, the experience of being this is oscillating between deep grief, depressed grief, depressive, crying, feeling the death, feeling the wailing of myself. This self that is not me, but is in here. Or rather, that I am in. And stepping outside of and watching that die. And that comes in wailing spurts where I'm crying. And then there's a releasing. There's like this little bit of releasing that happens every time. It's little by little. And there's a poignant relief right after that. That is like leaving a funeral. Like after a funeral, when you feel like, you know, you're in that space of, there's just a little more acceptance here of this happened and this is new. We're in a new space now. This is the opening to, I don't know what's next, but I'm here, I'm in it, and there's presence there. And there's a poignant beauty, a bittersweet beauty to everything. And it's like seeing Earth after a tremendous fire. That everything has burned and everything is gone. Everything that you knew, that you loved in this place is no more. But seeing a tiny little seedling that's sprouting. And knowing that more is coming and that it is beautiful. And so you're in that mixed state of grief and acceptance, of pain and joy. There's this kind of open flowing surrender. And sometimes it's briefly totally forgotten. For brief moments, you know, there's a distraction. And it's just put down altogether. And then I pick it back up, and I'm doing it consciously because I feel like there's more here. There's more here. There's more juice in this. Not more understanding, more experience. More growth, more expansion. There's fertilizer in this. For my being. For our being. And so I pick it back up because it feels like it's not done. And And I know it's not done because I hear ego again, you know. I hear it, I feel it, I see it moving. And then there's more witnessing. There's more witnessing of ego and its experience and allowing it to feel what it feels and not moving to change it. And so it's just that. It's just that's the process that I'm in. And sometimes it's boredom. Sometimes I do reach this sort of, I don't know if plateau is the right word, just maybe an equilibrium where briefly there's kind of nothing either direction. And then it just feels sort of empty. I think that's just a different part of the grief, honestly. And right now in this moment, there is a feeling of space opening up in the chest. And it feels kind of like a gut punch, but a gut punch downward, if that makes sense. Like something is punching through me into the earth, and it's opening up like a taproot. It's opening up that kind of space that is moving down really, really deep. And it's not really comfortable, but it's not uncomfortable. It's just a strange sensation. I mean, there is a kind of ache to it, but it's not necessarily unpleasant. It feels like that. Like something is being pulled through me. And it's leaving this, the dislodging of it or something is leaving this huge cavernous space in its wake. And then it's empty, but it's almost like a clearing out. Like cleaning out a wound or something. Anyway, I think I've said my piece for now. This just is what it is. This is not trying to convince anybody of I don't have a fucking agenda. I want to document this experience because it's real and it's happening. And some part of me feels that it's important to do that, and maybe that is just ego. Maybe it is just ego wanting to affect, wanting to leave some kind of mark, wanting to believe that it has some sort of power or influence. It does feel deeper, though, as sort of just a statement to myself. This is more of a statement made to myself of, I am doing it. I am coming home to me. I am letting this process take place. I am not looking for an end of it. I am not looking beyond it. If this is being me, if this is the rest of my experience, then I accept. I will only become more me. And that is what I want. I am committed to that. I am devoted to that. So this is my pledging. This is my demonstration of faith. Trusting my being, trusting this process, trusting life, the life that I am, to destroy myself completely, that I may be fully me, with no illusion, no delusions, that I may see clearly, that I may shine brightly as myself, for myself, because that is my selfish desire, and what I desire is. Thank you for your witness. Truly, it is an honor to have the witness of life. I witness you in whatever your experience is presently. I honor you in it. I trust you in it. Here we are. It is good to be here. It is good to be. I love you.